And let's get into the purpose of this webinar. A valuable place to start is, why am I doing this? Well, I'm doing this because I'm really talking to my former self. And you might be in a position of being like my former self, in which case I would like to be able to save you 20 years of dicking around. Because at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. So I've done some heavy lifting and I want to share my findings with you. And in order to lure you in, I put a lot of my findings into this first volume of an 8-volume pack. And the first volume will be free to you if you wish to download it. Click on the link. It's called the Coaching Backpack. Start before you're ready. And in it, I will discuss some of the primary concerns that might affect somebody who is either into personal development or who wishes to become a coach and extend their knowledge and capabilities into the coaching realm, but frankly hasn't got a clue how to start, what it is, and how to go about it. So here is a guide for your benefit, which is a distillation of some of my own findings over the past few years. And of course, beyond merely offering you something, quotes, for free in order to market my wares, I'd like you to get to know, to like, and to trust me. And the only way to do that is to share some knowledge that I've gained so that you can see that I have some authority on the subject. So what I'm aiming to do really is to introduce a little bit of clarity into the situation. You might want to become a coach. You might have questions about your own personal development, and you might want a nice, concise pack, which is going to offer you a starting point. So, what is coaching? A lot of people imagine that coaching is simply guiding people and telling them what to do. But coaching is so much more than that. Real coaching is real listening. And then you've got to ask yourself, who do I want to listen to? Who would I be most effective listening to? Because your tastes, your personality, your experiences, and your knowledge don't necessarily translate into every realm of the coaching arena. You might be good as a sports coach, but no good as a business coach. You may be good as a business coach, but no good as a relationship coach. And although there are some basics which apply across the fields, what I'm inviting you to do is to consider what your coaching personality is. And your coaching personality might be based on your skills, experience, and your work. It also might be very much based on your former self. So at this moment, you and I are on a shared quest. I refer to people who join my tribe as fellow seekers. And so welcome, fellow seeker. We've got a shared mission here. You're seeking, and I have some answers. Not all the answers, but some of them. And here they are. I thought I'd pull out the stops and go high tech for this one, so apologies if you're intimidated by the sheer technological brilliance of this presentation. This is our shared quest. This is where we are, and this is where we want to get. And of course, in between, what's blocking are all of these questions and forms of interference and challenges. And it may be challenges around learning, it might be personal, it might be industry knowledge, it might be your own frame of reference, it might be trying to find the right client, it could be your upbringing, it could be any number of things. So, what I'm aiming to do really is to get us from here, a state of confusion and questioning, to here, to light bulb moments where we can have some certainty and quality of decision making, which comes with that certainty. Hence, I put together a coaching package which is around 8 modules long. This first one is for free. I think I've already mentioned it, and you can download it. But going forward, I will walk you step by step through the process of entering into and maturing as a coach, an educator, a personal development assistant. As I have mentioned previously, who you used to be is probably your greatest asset. One of the issues that I have with a lot of coaching is that it tells you to burn your bridges, burn your boats. I do offer that same advice myself. However, we've got to have context here because a lot of people are informed they should reject the regrets and move forward with a braver face. In my view, your sum total of experience and knowledge and the regrets that you have and the life you've lived is your greatest asset as a coach, as a human being, and as somebody who's interested in personal development. So, who did you used to be? Let's go there. Let's have a look at how we can use you as your greatest resource and your greatest roadmap and your greatest pointer, really, for the direction you want to take. Interestingly enough, not much of what I'm saying in this particular webinar is in the coaching backpack. Not the first edition anyway, or the first volume. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk to you about your former self now, and let's see how we can use that as your roadmap. And so the first question I would ask is, if you could go back in time and visit your former self, what would you tell yourself? What kinds of questions would you ask? What kind of knowledge would you share? Knowing who you are, would you go back and load that person with lots of advice and finger waving? Or would you take a more diplomatic approach and listen quietly and use the experience and use the opportunity to unpick and find out about what is motivating your former self? And if the answer to that is yes, correct. That is the correct answer. But what would you tell your former self? If you could go back in time and you could speak to your former self and advise them, what kinds of things would you tell them? Would you tell them to pull themselves together? Would you tell them to get a life? Would you tell them to stop malingering? Would you tell them the kinds of things that you know would trigger you into doing the opposite? Because often people confuse coaching with just that. Have a think about your former self and have a think about the dreams and ambitions and the goals and the challenges that you faced. And if you could go back and advise your former self, what kinds of approaches do you think would work best? Who would you locate, latch onto and ask? And who would you avoid? What situations would you steer clear of? What situations would you steer into? And having listened to your former self, unload and describe what it is that they need and what their ambitions and their dreams are. What kind of goals would you set for them? And more importantly, how would you set goals and then make that former self accountable to those goals? In my view, if you consider how you would speak to your former self, that is the magic key to unlocking who you are as a coach. So have a think about it. Your experience is the mine, and you go down into that mine, you extract the nuggets of gold, which are going to make you a brilliant coach. Because your former self and that mine contains your personal style, it contains the sum total of your knowledge, it contains the value that you can share with others, and it contains the seeds of your own desire to make a change. All of these are very valuable assets, and they're all there in your own experience and knowledge. So drill deep, start extracting those nuggets. Your past and your experience and your challenges personify what you have to offer now. If you take the idea of alcoholism, for example, the best person to mentor an alcoholic is somebody who's lived those struggles themselves. Who's going to listen to somebody who hasn't got a clue what they're talking about? So whatever you are talking about, make sure it is honest and it's from you and it reflects who you are and the experiences and the challenges that you have faced. Because your community and your tribe is out there waiting for you. But bear in mind, your community and your tribe will only respond to you as a member of that community and that tribe. That's why you are your niche and your niche is you. So stop aimlessly searching around with the question, what is my niche? And start asking, who am I? So, fellow seeker, here's your challenge. I've been honest with you. Now, can you be honest with yourself? I'd like you to consider what your why is. Now, there's excellent information about this in Simon Sinek, for example, Find Your Why. Also, you could look at Russell Brunson. Look, you could look at personal development coaches across the whole spectrum. And what they will tell you in clumsy ways or in direct ways is you have to know why you want to do something. Dean Graziosi has asked the why question 7 times, and he models that in YouTube. So I'm going to ask you a few why questions and ask you to challenge yourself and get down into the basis of what it is you want to achieve from this, watching a short webinar of this nature. For example, what do you want? What are you expecting to get from watching this webinar? And then ask yourself, why is that thing that you want important to you? Next, What has escaped you thus far? And why has this important thing failed to materialize for you? Equally importantly, why do you feel that you need to change something, anything, yourself, or others? Equally important too, why aren't you doing it now? What is stopping you from making the change that you feel is important right now? Why are you putting off making a decision which could benefit you? And why are you attending this particular webinar? What do you want from this process? Now, I can go around again. I ain't gonna. But really, what you've got is you've got a circular process here. And that circular process doesn't have to end today or tomorrow or at any time. The circular process can be a toolkit that you can use for yourself to work out what it is you want from certain situations. And it can be something that you can apply to others who wish to seek your help and your support. So start with why. Start asking some questions. Equally important, start listening to the responses. And so we're coming into the final straight of this brief webinar. My aims are to get trust, to get you to like me, and to share my knowledge so you see that I have some authority. And of course, it is to encourage you to download the coaching backpack, which is free in the link below. But I also want to offer you some advice so you can have a think and maybe take a challenge away from this brief presentation. If you're interested in becoming a coach, or if you're interested in your own personal development, I think that this coaching challenge works equally well for both parties. So let's go. If you were magically given 10 hours to go back in time and coach your former self, and you were allowed to go back and have 10 separate sessions with your former self, how much do you feel you could achieve? What I would encourage you to do is to write a description of your former self. Write a description of your hopes, your dreams, your ambitions, and your challenges that you faced in your former life. Write down some of the regrets that you've encountered. Write down some of the things that you would like to have done differently. And then have a think about how you would get your former self, if you had 10 hours of coaching to provide, from confusion to clarity. If you don't wish to become a coach and you're only interested in personal development, say only, if personal development is what you are mostly interested in, good, this will work. Because what I've done is I've distilled my own personal development knowledge and quest and the things that I seek. And instead of trying to see coaching as something that is imposed on another person by some kind of superior being, what I've done is I've taken my own experiences, my own knowledge, my own research, and I've condensed it down so that it can be useful to somebody such as yourself, to somebody who wishes to be coached, or to anybody who, on a philosophical level, is interested in unpacking some of the mysteries of life. They're not great mysteries, but they are mysterious to some. So, long story short, thank you for watching thus far. I hope what I've shared with you has been a little bit useful. I secretly think it is. And so I hope that you can take some of the ideas and implement them in your life. Implement them on your own behalf or implement them on the behalf of other people. If you're considering getting into coaching, I would suggest Start Before You're Ready is a great place to do that. There's a link below. The book is free. All I ask is that if you do read it and use it, please do feedback to me and let me know if I'm going down the right road here. Okay, that's enough for today. I look forward to speaking to you again. I will be back next week with a similar foray, an exploration into this wonderful mine of information and experience that is personal development.